Okay, I am live. So let's see, how is everybody doing tonight? Ian says, getting my criticism of your criticism of his criticism of your criticism in early. Well, good. It's definitely want to show up on time at least. Let me see what I got going here. All right, got the live chat setting on. Anything else? I don't have it. What is that? I don't have access to that feature. Okay, well, I won't use that. What else are we doing? We're doing share screen. Okay. Don't think we're going to need that. Although one of these days I got to play around with that. Okay. So Ethan Van Sciver, yes, he had his Trashcast number 25. I don't know how many of y'all got to see that, but towards the end of the Trashcast, starting at about 3 hours and 45 minutes, and unbeknownst to me, nobody sent me any notification that this was going to be going on. He started playing my Rekt Panels Part 2 video. And I'd seen him do the Rekt Panels Part 1 before, so I guess I should have known he'd be doing the other one. But I actually wasn't sure. I mean, I don't know that he responded all that well to the criticism the first time, but apparently he likes to show that he can take it as well as giving it out. So he went ahead and did his exploration of my Rekt Panels Part 2 video, and good time was had by all, I guess. I didn't find out about it until probably about right until I think he was almost done with it. And my video was the last thing that he covered that night, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I had been catching up on the same Trashcast. I think I was about 4 hours behind on it, and I never got to really interact with them. He had John Malin and Shane Davis also watching my video with him, and I didn't like interact directly with any of them, although I did start seeing comments in the chat that I could interact with, and so I just went ahead and started replying to people's comments in the chat, and that was pretty much the only interaction I had thereabouts. So when I went through and watched him go through my video, and Shane Davis was there too, and John Malin was there, there were some points that they brought up that I thought were good points, interesting points, or points that I needed to counter. And I went and I put together a very, detailed reply that I've tried a couple of times now to put into the comments of that live stream. And on both occasions, the comment would not go through. And sometimes that happens. I don't know, because there are people who tell me for some reason that they are suppressed in some way when they're trying to comment on my videos. And I don't know why that is. I haven't done anything to anybody's account that I know of where, I've done anything like a hide on this channel or anything like that. At least I don't think I have. If there's anybody out, well, I guess they're not going to be able to tell me if I have done a hide on this channel, but I don't think I have. And so it always confuses me when somebody is like, oh, well, I guess you're not allowing these comments on here, are you? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. If you think there's something that I'm suppressing in some way, shape, or form, let me know. Let me see if I can, for some reason, I cannot. Is there, oh, is this the full screen? No, that's the dashboard pop out. Okay, never mind that. There was a way to full screen this thing. I guess not. Okay. All right, anyway, so because I went and I did a reply and I said, at this particular point, Shane or John or Ethan said thus and so, and this is my response to it. And because it's not showing up, I figure, well, I may as well go ahead and go through my response is in a live stream, because that's really the only way that I think it's gonna. I don't think, yeah, it wouldn't be quite as interesting to just try and do this in a video. And besides, I haven't done a live stream in a while. Loyal says, hello, Loyal. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the first comment that I had was on the fact that Ethan Van Sciver mentioned Identity Crisis #2, and he told the story of how Dan DiDio offered him Identity Crisis #2, and apparently the story is that he went to Dan DiDio's office, and Dan DiDio says, "Hey, we're going to be bringing in Brad Meltzer to write this Identity Crisis story, and we wanted to know if you're going to do it." And Ethan said, "Well, what's it about?" And Dan DiDio says, "We're going to rape Sue Dibney." and Ethan was just like, "You're going to what?" And so I mentioned in my comments that I actually have a video on Identity Crisis #2, which is where that scene takes place. And it is my argument supporting Brad Meltzer's decision to include that particular scene in Identity Crisis, to handle the traumatic event that happens to Sue Dibney that way. And so if anybody's interested in seeing my defense of Identity Crisis #2, go ahead and watch that video. It's called The Attack on Sue Dibney. There's also another video that I did on Identity Crisis. This was on Identity Crisis #1, and it was on how not to do a countdown. Because in Identity Crisis #1, the countdown is done to the death of the major character, and it's just distracting. It's distracting all the way through. It's almost like, I guess I know something important is going to happen. You're telling me it's 15 minutes from now, and therefore I know whatever it is that I'm watching in the panel, it's not that important compared to everything else that's happening. JB, I think you were the one I thought who was saying that for some reason there were comments that were not showing up in my YouTube or something. I don't know what it was, but like I said, and I just told people now, I don't know of anything. I can see you here, so I guess I should be able to see you on any of the other live streams, unless you're getting like auto suppressed by YouTube in the same way that I'm getting auto suppressed in some way, I think. Oh, JB says, my apologies, wasn't you. Okay, so there was somebody else. I guess somebody else's channel was doing that. So anyway, those are my two videos on Identity Crisis. Go and check those out if you get a chance. My voice is a little scratchy today. I was at Choctaw Casino today, and I was in the smoking section, and I can tell that my vocal cords are a little bit frayed from being around all that cigarette smoke. Blew about $80 over there. Didn't stay too long. And God, I mean, those games. There's some of those games that I can play for a while, and there are some of those games that just eat my money. And I went and there was a couple of the older games. The older games are the kinds where they say, here's how many lines you can play, and then here's how many coins you can bet per line. And those are the ones that I usually like the most, because they allow me to do more than just, feed money in and start slapping the button. It's more of, okay, if I get, I'll start by doing one line and betting one coin per line. And if that works, then I'll up the number of coins. And if it doesn't work, then I'll up the number of lines. And I'll go all the way until I get up to whatever the maximum number of lines is. And then I will cycle back around to doing 1 and 1 again as soon as I fail at that. And so that gives me something to do while I'm there in front of a slot machine. I don't play any of the card games. I don't play any of the roulette or anything like that, Keno, what have you. And I just go in there and sit down at the slots. And I was hoping to eat at the buffet, but their buffet was closed. I don't know why, unless that's just normal for them on a Sunday. So anyway, I went up there. And the reason I was over there is because just north of that was the Texoma Comicon. Was being held at Choctaw Event Center, which was just north of the Choctaw Casino. And so I got to see Steve Garcia over there. He's an artist and illustrator who worked on The Iron Giant, Simpsons. I've got a short on my on my YouTube channel that's featuring him, so go check that out. I think he's got a website that he's trying to bring online. I don't know that it's online yet, but he's got some interesting work, and I bought a piece off of him, and so I spent some time there at the Texoma Comic Con, and I was, it's funny. I used to love Comic Cons, but the only reason that I go to Comic Cons now is to see celebrities. I don't go to Comic Cons for merchandise anymore. I was never into like the swords and the crafting and the dice and all of the cosplay and all that kind of stuff. I was never into that anyway. I mean, just dressing up in this ISOM t-shirt was about the best that I was going to do for any of that. But I was never about going to Comic Cons for anything other than the comic books and the celebrity appearances. And the comic books, I no longer need. There's only one comic book series that I am looking for now, and that comic book series is Legend of the Blue Marvel. I am looking for issues 1 through 5 of that, or I am looking preferably for the trade paperback that contains all 5 issues. I got into reading Ultimates 2, I think, or it was the Ultimates by Al Ewing, and he features Dr. Adam Brazier in Ultimates, the Blue Marvel, and that was the first time that I really ever, had any use for the character was when Al Ewing took him over. And then I went back and I was starting to try and go everything up to his initial appearance. And for some reason, Marvel has never reprinted Adam Legend of the Blue Marvel. I don't know why that is. I remember I asked Kevin Grievous on Twitter back when I still had a Twitter account, why is it that Marvel has never reprinted Adam Legend of the Blue Marvel? He said, I don't know. And I don't know if there's, something in Matt Broom that's holding up the copyright, or if there's some property that Marvel used and licensed at the time that was in that series. I don't know what the problem is. Marvel has gone so far as to offer that the ebook of it for free during Black History Month, but they've never reprinted just the paper and ink copy of the trade paperback. And now if you want to get one of those, you have to go to eBay and pay like $100 for it. And I don't really want to do that. I just want to get the second, whatever the second edition trade paperback is, I'll get it. I'll buy it. Just freaking reprint it already. So I don't know what Marvel's problem is in that respect. But anyway, that's where I was today. I was up at Texomacon. I went to the casino and then came home, ate, and then got ready for this because I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to reply to some of the responses that Ethan Van Sciver and Shane Davis and John Malin had about my review of Cyberfrog 2, the next 10 pages of it, which were pages 6 through 15. And one of the complaints that I keep getting about my reviews is that I'm doing these things in chunks. Nobody complained about this when I was doing this on ISOM. Nobody, absolutely no one. Never got a single complaint on my ISOM number 1, number 2, Alpha Core number 1 reviews. I'm doing the same thing on Ethan's comic book that I'm doing for the ISOM and Rippaverse books. And all of a sudden, people are like, well, you can't just, take a few pages at a time and review that. That's not the proper way to do it. Like, the hell? Where were all these complaints from anybody back then? Now, I don't know if it's because maybe the audiences differ. Is it because the Rippaverse crowd wouldn't even know enough to raise that kind of objection? But I don't even see that objection as being valid. I mean, to me, it's no different from saying, well, Cyberfrog is going to be 4 books. It's going to be Blood Honey, Rekt Planet, Red Extermination, and Green Supremacy. And until you've read all 4 of those, you really don't have any grounds to review any one of those. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. So I don't see the problem with reviewing a few pages at a time. And besides, if I were trying to review the entire book at once, I would have so much so many notes crammed in my head throughout the whole ordeal that it would just be an overwhelming task. So I try and go until I have enough to make a video on, and then I make a video on it, and then, repeat the process until I'm done with the book. And then if there's any other overarching stuff, I will go back and I will make, topical videos. Like in ISOM, I had all of the videos that were going, through the book one by, section by section. And then when I finally got to the end, I think I had a video just on the basic theme of is ISOM a black redneck? According to Thomas Sowell's book, Black Rednecks and White Liberals. So I will do topical things if I find any topical, if I find any broader topics at the end to cover. But there's no reason why a comic book can't be reviewed a few pages at a time in the way that I'm doing. I just don't understand the objections to that. Loyal says, I have no issue with you going one chapter at a time. I prefer it that way because it allows you to go in depth with each chapter. Yeah, I mean, that's basically correct. I mean, now I have covered the whole first section of Cyberfrog to Rekt Planet, the prologue plus the initial combat, and now we're going to be getting into the part where Heather takes Cyberfrog back to her survivalist community that she's been living in for the last 20 years, and we're going to find out more about things from there. We're going to meet Colin, who's the leader of the community, yada, yada, yada. But, that's a whole new section that probably does deserve a video of its own. I already remember the infamous pig page on there where it seems like the focus of the page is like a pig that's having all these little piglets suckling at its teats. And I'm thinking, this is probably a metaphor for Colin right here. But I'll get into that more when the time comes. And like I said at the end of Rekt Panels Part 2, I'm going to switch over to Andy Smith's Kordrath the Reckoning, because he's already starting to post notices about Kordrath the Awakening, which is the sequel to Kordrath the Reckoning. And I need to read this thing to find out whether or not I'm actually going to continue with the series. I bought it ages ago, but I just have never gotten around to reading it, and definitely not to reviewing it. Although I do have an 8-page preview, or a review of the 8-page preview of Kordrath the Reckoning, where I do make some notes along the kind of the Let's Fix style. And I got to go back and see whether or not Andy Smith's Kordrath the Reckoning, those first 8 pages, have changed in any way from the original, from the preview. Just in case there's something that, he did change from the preview time to print time that I need to go back and address, or at least make note that he did change. Otherwise, those I may just cut that section of the video and just slide it right into whatever my first preview video is. I can do that kind of stuff now that I'm using CapCut.exe to like slice up or boost or do things. Ooh, I should have checked my sound. I did not check my audio before getting on, so I'm hoping that everything sounds okay. Properties, level. Oh, shit. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, if the audio has been freaking horrible for the last, I don't know how long, I'm hoping it's better now. Because, oh, God. Loyal says, yeah, everything sounds good to me. Well, I hope it sounds even better now, because whenever an update is made to my computer, or I don't know what it is that's going on, something sets my sound recording level all the way down to 8 out of a possible 100. And normally I have it on at 100 out of a possible 100, plus a 10% boost. So I don't know what the freaking problem is with this, and I hope YouTube has been, correcting for the whole ordeal. I don't know. Maybe the audio is something I'm going to have to go back and boost when this is done. But sorry about that. If for some reason the audio has been coming in quiet all this time, I hopefully have fixed that now. God, that's just freaking irritating. My computer has been on the blink. I've been looking at getting a new computer, Let's see. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see. Mad SOX says, stay on Cyberfrog review. You can still read Cordrath and decide off cam and come back to that if you want a review. Well, yeah, but I can only read like one at a time, so I need to read Cordrath first. I've been needing to get a new computer because this is the last year that Windows 10 is in service, and Windows 11, and I need to switch to something that's either Windows 11 or an Apple computer. And man, I gotta tell you, I mean, Apple is tempting because I know that it's I guess it's an easier thing to use and deal with as far as the updates and just keeping it up to date and not having to worry about drivers here, drivers there. I very rarely even updated my drivers on this computer. I think I probably got drivers that are years out of date for the graphics card and what have you. But Apple is so expensive. It's like $2,400 for the 16-inch screen, and I have a 17-inch screen right now. I don't want to. I don't want to shrink down my screen. I would like to have a 17-inch Apple computer, and they don't even have that option. So I think I'm just going to try out a cheap, probably, I don't know, Hewlett Packard, Lenovo, Dell, something. I've had Dell for a while. I mean, I'm working on an Alienware now, and the only thing that really irritates me is that the Dell Support Assist has a tendency to get in the way of me sometimes, to the point where it like disables my mouse touchpad. And every once in a while, all of a sudden the fan will crank up to 11, and then my touchpad will be disabled. And I think it may be memory issues or something that's going on, and also overheating that's going on in the laptop. It's a 10-year-old laptop, 11 years old, really, because I got it back in 2013. Let's see. Mad SOX says, is it just me, or is YouTube ultra sensitive to clicking videos? I don't know. Loyal says, yeah, I hate Dell computers. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, this thing has worked for me for the last 10 years, and I have not gone through any significant upgrades other than, replacing the battery at one point. I haven't done any memory upgrades. I haven't done any graphics card updates. Like I said, my drivers are behind. But I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to just start searching around and saying, okay, what is the best podcasting and content creating laptop that's out there, 17 inches, show me what's out there, and then I'll try and buy whatever the cheap version of that is. Because, I mean, if you're not buying Apple, you can actually experiment with some of this stuff. You can actually say, okay, I'm going to buy a 17-inch laptop, and if that doesn't work, I'll buy this other 17-inch laptop. You can't do that if you're doing Apple. I mean, the Apple is so expensive that you're cleaning yourself out pretty much just trying to buy one. And so I want to be able to do something that is affordable and yet experimental, and hopefully even something that maybe bare bones is going to be enough to run Windows 11 and run all of these, Adobe Photoshop or other kinds of software that I don't have now on Windows 10. And hopefully that'll make my life easier when I'm trying to do some of the reviews that I do, because right now I do everything in Microsoft Paint as far as trying to, clean up all the dialogue balloons or get rid of things, excising things. That's why sometimes I'll just basically say, I'm just going to blank this stuff out, because I cannot go through the trouble of trying to do a dialogue balloon removal and then try and sketch in everything that was there before. Sometimes that's easy to do, sometimes that's not. But it's all manual labor, and it's hefty labor when it comes to that. Okay, so let's get into the Trashcast content, and let's see. I am just going to read off of my notes. I've already gone over the fact that I have a couple of videos on Identity Crisis. So that was a different part of the video. And now at 4 hours, 7 minutes, Shane Davis gives his opinion that when I'm talking about panel breaking rules, And I'm saying that panel breaking ought to be done sparingly, that panel breaking makes something the most important thing on the page, and that you should never panel break on top of something that's important. He gave his opinion that I must have heard these rules from somebody sometime. Some artist had given the rules, and I've just adopted those, and I think those are gospel. That's not true. It's what these rules are my distilled opinion of how panel breaks done right work, and how panel breaks done wrong fail to work. So when I say do it sparingly, it's because I've seen comics like Ethan Van Sciver's Blood Honey, where they're done up and down, left and right. And Rekt Planet is no exception to that rule either. He does panel breaks all over the place, and admittedly so. I mean, there are points where he basically says, "Oh, I'll just go through and I'll break every panel." It's like, yeah, I actually have a example in the book of a page where there's panel breaks just freaking everywhere, and it's makes the book, it makes that particular page so hard to read. It's this page right here. Let's see if you can see this one. You've got panel breaks going on from the first panel down into the third panel, from the third panel up into the second panel and into the first panel. So you got kind of a doom loop of priority going. You've also got these two panels are actually layered on top of this panel. And then you've got Heather Swain's head breaking into this panel, which is not altogether bad. It's like, make up your damn mind what's important and what's not. Because all of this just winds up being kind of spaghetti. You wind up with all of these different things. You got this on top of that, that on top of this on top of that, then going back down, here's this, here's that. And it's just like, Jesus, guy. I mean, can you just write a sequential story? And yeah, that's the kind of thing that I really don't go for. Now, this other page that I was commenting on, this one's not so bad because all you have is you've got one panel break that goes down into this panel, but it's still not a good panel break because you start out here, you come to here, and then the foot takes you down to this third panel where you really shouldn't be at this point. You should be over here. And then coming down, coming around, and then, oh, okay, he's starting to blow up. Oh, wait, what's this? What's this thing sticking down? Oh, yeah, that's this guy's foot. And now I'm back up here again. You know, it's like, dude, just get rid of this foot and let us read, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then come down here. And then here, we've got these panels that are covering up portions of this and portions of that. And it makes you wonder, okay, well, is there anything underneath these panels? Are there any body parts, flying bones, or something that we would have seen under here if it wasn't for these panels? Those are the kinds of things that, the reader winds up having to think about, and it just puts an additional strain on the reader. Because the normal sequence of any page is like panel, 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 and you're good to go. Turn the page. So those are the kinds of things that really bug me. And so when I say that there are these rules about panel breaking, they're not rules that I've heard from someone else. I may as well just keep this in my lap. They're not rules that I've heard from someone else. They're rules that I've distilled from looking at artists who have done panel breaking well and have used it to good effect. And then from their example and comparing and contrasting them with examples where it wasn't done well, like some of the examples I showed in here, I can say, okay, what's the difference between a good panel break and a bad panel break? And those three rules about doing it sparingly, make sure that you really want the thing that's breaking out of the panel to be the most important thing on the page. And then also make sure there's nothing underneath the panel break that is important or is going to get covered up. Then those three things, those three rules are what I've managed to distill out of that. And the same thing applies to panel layering. You want to your artist to understand that panel layering needs to be done sparingly, and panel layering makes those panels the most important things on the page. And then you want to make sure that it's not covering up anything of importance, so that the reader doesn't wonder, oh, is there something that I should be seeing under those panels that maybe I'm not? So yeah, when Shane Davis says that somehow I have adopted some other artist's rules for panel breaking, that's not the case. That's something that I developed myself, and it's explained in my video, erratic rules for panel breaking. Okay, so that's addressing that comment by Shane Davis. Now Shane later made, okay, let's hold on for a second. There's you're close to 1,000 subs. Mad SOX says you're close to 1,000 subs. Are you close on hours watched to get monetized? I've actually been fully. I've actually had the full hours requirement for some time. Because in case anybody doesn't know, there's 2 levels of monetization on YouTube. The first level comes at 500 subscribers, and I think you have to have 2,000 watch hours for the year in the last 365 days. And at that point, you're opened up for super chats and super thanks, and you can also, I think, do memberships, channel memberships. And I haven't like implemented any kind of channel membership type thing. The only thing that I've got is super chats and super thanks. Those are going. Although super chats, I mean, you may as well forego that for the time being, because right now I've got so few people watching the stream that I can get to everybody's comments, and you don't need to pay for it. Hopefully I'll be in that position someday when there's so many people watching the chat and making comments and stuff that I can't keep up unless, somebody starts paying and saying, hey, look at me, here's some money. But I'm definitely not there yet. So super chats and super thanks, those are things that open up at 500 subscribers, and I think it's 2,000 watch hours. The next tier, and the last tier, as far as I know, is getting ad revenue. And ad revenue comes at 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. And I have been at 4,000 watch hours for a long time now. Yeah, I have no problem hitting that threshold. It is just the subscriber count. And Ethan's pushed me up there very closer than I was. I think I was at about, when he did my first video and he started recommending me to people, he pushed me up from 830 to about 920. And so I'm sitting at about 923 now. And so I just need that last 77 to get me up to that monetization threshold. I don't know if you lose ad revenue access if you go below that, or if, once you've hit the 1,000, then you're good. I hope it's the latter, because, who knows? I've actually lost a few followers in this last round where Ethan and Shane and John were commenting on my critique. So I don't know that I can count on his Trashcast reviews of my reviews to push my subscriber thing any higher. Hopefully with the other comics that I start reviewing, that'll broaden my appeal. And then, of course, you've got Yaira coming out soon, so I'll be getting back on the Rippaverse bandwagon and commenting on that. So that's pretty much where I'm standing right now. So let's see. What is the next thing that Shane Davis said? I actually liked the next comment of Shane Davis, because what he is saying is, Shane's comment at 4 hours and 10 minutes was something along the lines of, when the reader turns the page and then sees the page, the reader does not look at just the panels one by one. The reader actually sees the full page and absorbs the information on the page in some sort of entire pattern, which is kind of bullshit. It's kind of not true at all. That may be true in the case of things like Billy Tucci's pages in She, which was Heaven and Earth, I think was the series, where Billy Tucci basically drew panelless pages for the entire book. It's really an amazing feat. If you've never seen Billy Tucci's She, Heaven and Earth, I think that's what it is, Tora no She, Heaven and Earth, or I keep wanting to say She, the Way of Water, but I think that's because the panels kind of flow like water. And there are no panels. There's no panel borders. Every single page in that book is like a 4-piece montage that goes in a Z formation. And you can read it pretty easily once you realize that, you're flowing from one area to the next. But that's the important thing to realize, is that you're still, even in that case where he's drawn no panel borders, you're still flowing from one scene to the next in a Z formation, which is the normal reading order of any comic book page. So when Shane says, well, the reader, turns the page and then he takes the whole page in and there's information all over the page, fucking bullshit. The comic book is read top to down and left to right. That's how every single comic book page is. The only time that you ever have an entire page absorbed at once is when you have a splash page, because that's when you have one panel and maybe there's only 2 or 3 things of dialogue. I gave an example of Luke Cage Power Man, and shoot, I don't have the Epic Collection right here with me. Let me see if I can get it up on my phone. Well, that doesn't sound suggestive at all. Let me see if I can get it up on my phone. Hold on a second. I know I made a YouTube short, and it's a funny short comparing Eric. Oh crap! Yeah, Ethan Van Sciver is doing his Trashcast 26. If y'all want to catch that, I was hoping to not conflict with him for a change, but F it. We've come too far to stop now. We shall not be cowed just merely because Ethan Van Sciver is doing a Trashcast right during my trashing his Trashcast. One day the ranks of men will bow and head on over to Ethan Van Sciver's podcast, but it is not this day. This day we wait for Mike to get his crap together and finally pull up the right video that he's looking for. Okay, go to this, go to shorts. Here's the video. Some people like to say that. That's me. Okay, so even on a page where you've got, the hell, what did I do? Give you a recursive loop? Am I at the 34-minute mark? Is that what YouTube just spazzed on? Okay, so look at this this page from Luke Cage Power Man. This is a whole splash page with the exception of this this portion that's down here in the lower right-hand corner, and you can see he's got dialogue balloons going down the page. So you read across, and you see you start with the scream, the ee, and then he's starting to think about the fact that he's now falling to his death practically. And then you come down and you're reading these dialogue balloons, and you're reading the page in a set sequence. You're not taking the whole thing in at once and getting every single word. So and it's much more segmented when you're reading a page and you have multiple panels on it. So the panels we were talking about at the time, I think, was this one. I think this is the one. Okay, so we've got Cyberfrog, and I make the note that, okay, here we kind of need to know that the stinger has detached, because with actual hornets, earth hornets, stingers don't detach. Because we're not familiar with Vespa's physiology, then we don't know whether the stinger has detached or if it's occluded. And then Shane says, but it's showing in the next panel. It's like, yeah, that's the next fucking panel. We don't know that here. And anybody who's reading this page is not looking at all 11,000 panels at once. This is actually a very good page, by the way, as far as the breakdowns goes. There's actually no panel breakage going on in any of this. So look, it can be done. Ethan Van Sciver can draw a freaking page without having any panel breaks, without having any panel layering. It can be done. And yeah, I mean, he's got, one of the comments that I kept getting from people was, oh, well, you never criticize the artwork itself. It's like, that's because the artwork is freaking great. I mean, in every single panel, it's great artwork. He doesn't need to go above and beyond and start doing all this layering and panel breaking where it doesn't help because the art's already fantastic. So here you have a page where you've got 9 different panels. You've got 9 panels, no panel breaks, no panel layering. It's still awesome, but you're not reading all 9 panels at once. I'm sorry, that does not happen. There's no such thing as peripheral vision reading when it comes to this kind of stuff. You're reading this, and then you're moving on to this panel, and then you're moving on to this panel, and then you're moving on to this panel. And maybe you look ahead a little bit just because, it's within range of your eyes, and maybe some of that informs it. But, if you're trying to critique one of these things, definitely, you're considering each one of these panels one at a time, because that is the way that the reader is going to be encountering these panels, is one at a time. So, yeah, I don't buy that argument about how it's a gestalt. However, one of the things that I do think is that is the term that may well be the way in which some of these artists like Shane or like Ethan put these pages together. There's different ways to construct a book when you're writing it. My way, when I'm writing full script for somebody else, is I'm thinking panel by panel, what do I need in these particular panels? And on rare occasion, I will think of the entire page and I will say, here's how I need the entire page to look. I usually work backwards from that. I usually work backwards and say, okay, here's what this panel and this panel and this panel and this panel, here's what they all need to do. But there's also the way of doing that in the other direction. It's like, what does the page need to show? And then how are you going to break the panels down in that case? Like, for example, there's a story that I wrote for a guy who, I still need to finish the second prose story that I'm supposed to write for him. I wrote a piece that's set on a spaceship, and the spaceship and the armada to which the spaceship belongs are flying away from a planet that has just been obliterated. The planet's surface has been glassed, essentially. And then the Emperor, who is on the Armada's flagship, is walking down a corridor towards a prison cell. And so when I go into that, when I think about that scene, it's like, okay, what do I need to have happen on this page? Well, the first thing I need to have happen is I need to show the Armada flying away from the planet. And then I need to be able to show the Emperor walking down a corridor towards the prison cell. Okay, so I'm going to have the first 2/3 of the page is going to be the Armada flying away from the planet, and then the next the lower third of the page is going to be I don't remember whether it was 2 panels or 3 panels, but it's going to show the Emperor walking at one point. He's going to be walking past a guy, and then he's going to be arriving at the jail cell. So I guess it was 3 panels. And I'm thinking this all out, panel by panel by panel, because even though I'm kind of looking at the page layout in general, I'm still trying to make sure that the sequential nature of the story is being told one panel after the other. And that's what I feel gets lost in this gestalt approach that some comic book artists, possibly Shane, possibly Ethan Van Sciver, are bringing to their idea of how the book is to be written. I think at times they're like, I need these 5 things to happen on the page, and I'm going to draw the prettiest way possible that I can put all these things on the page, and I'm not going to pay attention so much to the narrative structure. But the narrative structure is what tells the story. And so if you get too focused on trying to make things look as pretty as possible, then you could wind up submerging your narrative to the artwork in a way that is detrimental to your story. Ultimately, what you want to do is tell the story. You don't want to just throw posters and pictures of artwork out there unless you're doing something like Dan Jurgens did with Superman 75, and he was doing 1 splash page per page. And that's a hard thing to pull off. I mean, it's kind of fascinating that he was able to do that. But in the case of, say a page like this, which I complained about, he may have basically said, okay, I need all these things to happen, but just to have them happen would kind of bore me, so I'm going to make this a more fascinating looking thing, and I'm going to have this shot kind of layering over on that, and blah blah blah. And it's like, that's great. It's not wrong to think in terms of making a beautifying page, but you also have to remember that there is a narrative structure inherent in your page that you have to respect while you are assembling this all together. And if you violate the narrative structure by breaking things down into other panels and leading your reader's eyes up all over the page and crisscrossing, then you're not serving your story by doing that. So that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to tell people to avoid. And so when Shane says, the reader takes in the page all at once, I mean, the reader might, give the page a glance at some point and say, oh, that's really nice looking. But that's not the way you actually read the story. You read the story from top down, left to right. Okay, so 4 hours and 28 minutes in, we are doing a discussion of this splash page, which Ethan says is a representation of Cyberfrog at his full power and might. So this page right here. I was basically saying that, if you look at the previous page and you look at the first page on the, well, let's see, here's the previous page. Oh God, doing this stuff in reverse is not easy. I'm going to have to figure out a way to do these share screen kind of things before. But you've got this panel here where it shows him jumping up into the trees. You've got him jumping up into the trees. He's up in the trees, and now he's about to attack the Vespers. And then this splash page comes into play, and this shows him jumping down from above. And then you've got this scene where he's actually kicking the Vespers on the head. And what I basically said was, I look at this splash page, and I feel like it's money out of my pocket, because I look at this splash page and it feels like money out of my pocket because it's giving me practically no information. It's giving the fight is starting. I know the fight is starting. Why do you have to show me in a full page spread that the fight is starting and that he's got this, confident attitude here? And what Ethan said is that this splash page is supposed to represent Cyberfrog at his full power and might, quote unquote. So this is his full power and might. Problem with that, we already know he's cut off from Chel-Sin. Chel-Sin is not in contact with him, and so he can't possibly be at his full power and might, because cut off from his mother, cut off from Chel-Sin, and her ability to cybernetically augment him at a distance, there's no way that he can rapid evolve the kind of tech that he needs to easily beat the Vespers. He's working on he's got his basic systems going, and that's it. We know he's not at full power. The only thing he is right now is posturing. He knows he's not at full power. So the idea that this is supposed to be representative of him at full power is like, well, dude, you already told us he wasn't. So how are we supposed to interpret it like that? There's no way you can give us that kind of contradictory information. Heather just flipped the frack out. Boy, there's a flashback to Battlestar Galactica. Heather just flipped the frack out because she found out that he's not connected with Chel-Sin, which means he's not at full power. So the idea that this is somehow demonstrating him at his full power and might, it's like, no, we can already call BS on its face. So, this is just kind of posturing. And that's why I had it put in there talking about, my confidence masks my shame. Because, he's got to be compensating for something. He's got to be compensating for the fact that he's actually probably at his weakest in this particular frame. So yeah, I'm not buying that full power and might kind of representation. 4 hours and 50 minutes on the Trashcast. What Ethan says in this particular case, let's see. Okay, so the page in question in this particular part is this one. We've got the Vespers has just stung Cyberfrog and is flying away. And so Cyberfrog pulls the stinger out of his shoulder, and then clutching his arm, he shoots his tongue out and then wraps the Vespers up. And the Vespers, just basically is pulled down to earth and just lies there while Cyberfrog kills it. I'm like, wait a minute. Why is the Vespis just lying there and taking it? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I mean, why the Vespis? There was nothing in any of the previous stuff that we've seen so far to indicate that the Vespis was dying, that the Vespis was, exhausted, that the Vespis was severely injured. There's nothing in any of the previous pages that indicates that. And Ethan acts as though it is the Vespis running away that is the indication of that. But the Vespis has just lost its primary weapon, which is the Stinger. And moreover, it has another objective in mind, which is to inform its hive of the presence of a human colony that they had not eradicated yet. So the Vespis has ulterior motives for wanting to go away, other than just, it's tired of fighting Cyberfrog, or it's having a problem, it realizes it's in trouble in some way, shape, or form. We haven't really seen it in trouble. I mean, we've just basically seen him, bashing it against the trees where it has trouble with its mobility in the trees, and then it stings him, and it's essentially won at that point. So yeah, why wouldn't it leave in victory, not in desperation? So I'm not buying that explanation that, well, the Vespis is running away because obviously it's tired, or it's hurt, it needs to, it's running for its life. Like, no, there's nothing that indicates that. What we do know is that the Vespis has a mission to go and, track the frog, find out where the frog is going, find out if there's any humans on the other end of that frog's trail, and turns out there are. And so now it's time to report back, now that it's, taking care of the frog. There's no reason to think that the Vespis is defeated in any way, shape, or form. So, that explanation kind of does not hold water. 4 hours and 57 minutes. Now, this is the sad part. So I referred to this page, and in this page I said this is where Cyberfrog discovers that his basic cybernetic processes, even apart from Chelsin, are enough to counter the Vespis venom in his system. So he's functionally immune from the Vespis venom. And Ethan popped in and said, no, that's not correct. What's happening is that, well, he's a cold-blooded reptile or amphibian, and the Vespis poison just simply doesn't work on him. Well, that's bullshit for two reasons. Number one, he was swelling up like a mofo, and Ethan even even made reference to the fact that he's like seriously swelling up in this scene. So obviously he's affected by the Vespis venom. But what's worse is that I don't think he even remembers what he wrote here, because what he's got down in this piece of dialogue, and I don't know if I can show it where you can see it, but it says anti-venom process initiated. Anti-venom process initiated. So yeah, there's a cybernetic process going on that's cleansing his blood of the venom, and it's just part of his basic cybernetic processes. I don't know why he contradicted me on that. That was almost like being contrarian or just having completely forgotten what he wrote. At 4 hours and 59 minutes, okay, now we're talking about this splash page. This splash page is supposed to represent Heather reacting to the fact that he's barely won. I mean, he's gone through this combat, this hellish combat with the Vespis. The Vespis stung him. Fortunately, he's got this cybernetic process that cleansed his blood of the poison, so he's functionally immune from the Vespis venom, even though it took a while for that process to come online. And now he's getting back to normal. He's kind of, getting to the point where, yeah, he's kind of been wrecked, but he's back. And he's saying, see, nothing to worry about. And she's got kind of her back turned on him, and she's also got one arm kind of protective around Lily, who is facing him, looking on in horror at the scene that is in front of her. And what Ethan said was that Heather is basically at this point realizing that even though he's back, he's not the savior at this point because he's disconnected from Chelsin. He just fought a Vespes and he has barely won. Okay, the problem is that we already saw her flip the frack out about the fact that he was disconnected from Chelsin. She already knew that he was in a depowered state compared to what he's capable of when he is connected with Chelsin. She already knew this. And so how is this giving us new information? It's not. The only thing that's really new information is that instead of rushing to him to see how she can help him now that he has been like practically taken apart by the Vespes, she is now tending to her daughter. And so that is why in the dialogue that I put together or the captions that I put together for this page, I'm focusing on the fact that Heather is attending to her daughter instead of attending to him the way that she might have in the old days. And unfortunately, Ethan kind of took that to be something sexually suggestive, which was not my intention, although I look back on it and I was like, okay, I could have written that a little bit better so that he didn't get the wrong idea about that. But what I'm seeing here is he's realizing that his relationship with Heather in this new world 20 years later, now that she has gone through, 20 years without him, has changed. And he is isolated from her in a way that he was not before. And he's really isolated in this entire world. This is not the planet that he left behind. And so I felt it was necessary to focus on that and to give this panel something to say other than, oh, look, dead bug. And then the other, yeah, that's pretty much it for this scene. Because they were saying that, well, she's turning Lily away, but she's really not. I mean, if you look at Lily is still facing him head on. So if she had actually been turned away, at least even just a little bit, if her posture had been such that, she was following her mom and going off, then we could kind of get that idea of, it's like, oh, don't look, don't expose yourself to this. But Lily's just facing it head on. And so the only thing that Heather really would be doing in that is like trying to provide some sort of comfort to her as opposed to trying to turn her away. So anyway, that's just basically a little bit repetitious there. Anything else? Yeah, the last thing was 5 hours and 2 minutes. Ethan kind of joked that that John Malin and Shane Davis's turns under my critical eye would be coming. And he's right. I have actually backed Inglorious Rex, volumes 1 and 2, and the supplementals 1 and 2. So when those come in, I will be reviewing those. And also John Malin's Graveyard Shift. I backed the catch-up bundle, which will give me Graveyard Shift volumes 1 through 4, plus all of the supplemental volumes that come attached with that up through Omega Storm. Now, I did not purchase Graveyard Shift number 5. I figure I'm probably going to wait until the number 5 supplemental comes out, and then I'll get 5 and the supplemental together. But those purchases are coming. I have backed those, so I will be getting John Malin's work. I will be getting Shane Davis's work. Oh, and Shane Davis's work, I'm also getting Starlight Cats, so I'll be reviewing that as well. So those are on the way, and so I put them on notice. And that's about it. Those are the notes that I tried to put into the comments of the last Trashcast, and for some reason it just wouldn't accept the comment that I was trying to post out there. I don't know if it was too large. I don't know if I'd put some characters in there in the wrong sequence, and for some reason it just doesn't like that. There was just nothing that I could do as far as trying to get that in there. But that's what's going on, or those are my responses to Ethan Van Sciver's Trashcast from last night. And now I think I'm going to go ahead and leave so that I can watch his Trashcast from tonight and not get too far behind on that. So hop on over to the Ethan Van Sciver Trashcast number 26 that's going on. Maybe Trashcast 27 will be covering this live stream. We'll see. Thank you all for joining. I think we had about, at one point, we had about 10 or 11 people watching at the same time. So, the fact that Ethan Van Sciver's doing simultaneous with me, I appreciate people at least keeping their sessions open if you weren't actually paying direct attention and giving me some of the live stream points there. We've gone just on about an hour now, and I think that's far enough. I'm Mike Partika. Thank you for watching this live stream, and I will talk to you all later.